Hello again, Tony the Tiger, and I guess we're talking about dating again. Yay. It's like we've grown nowhere in all of this time. Anyhow, this is an honest man's perspective of the challenges of navigating the expectations of women around dating. And I'm not talking about the superficial 666 thing. Like, we all know that's ridiculous and Delulu chasing, but I'm putting that to the side. I'm talking about real, practical, honest women and their honest expectations of men about relationships. Okay, not just flings, relationships. So, to start, I'm going to touch on three principles. First, equal pay. Now, this is slightly simplified, but basically, a man and a woman of about the same age and about the same experience should have about the same income and growth potential. You know what? I'm cool with that. If there's anything that I will defend 100% to the end, it's this one. Like, it's not unreasonable at all. But there is mathematical consequences of this that, compared with the other two, are worth factoring in. The second one, age appropriate dating. Because obviously, anyone dating outside of their +or -5 age bracket right now is quote unquote a creep or a gold digger or a predator. Thank you very much to 25 years of Lifetime TV, Dateline NBC, and Law and Order SVU for making every woman everywhere afraid of men outside of this age range and within it. But nevertheless, it's not unreasonable. Be about the same age. And then the third principle is the classic. It's the throwback breadwinner principle. This is where you expect the man to bring the money, often twice as much money as the woman makes. It's the more traditional gatekeeping approach of a professional man and a homekeeping woman that you see in more traditional and religious settings. The problem's what happens when you try to do all three of these at once. And that's where things get icky. The fact is, you can only have two of these principles. That's not just my opinion. This is math. Principle A and B, you're age appropriate, you're relatively equal earning. It's the most popular arrangement of the working class and it's a fair shake. But you're not going to have a breadwinner. You're going to be bouncing back and forth all the time and fighting over whose money is being used for what. Like, not as much as people that are more lopsided, but there is also a lack of the kiss up sexual chemistry because there's really no incentive to butter up a partner for favors or expenses or anything. You just use your part of the money and do it and apologize for it later or congratulate each other later, whatever you arrange. B and C is your typical nuclear option family. You have you have an age appropriate couple, and a man that makes more than the woman, and the woman does more of the housekeeping. And this is very, again, more traditional and conservative in nature. But you have that financial instability. You have a man that has the money where he would rather be outside of the home than in it because the woman really controls the domain of the home with an iron fist. So you end up with more of that avoidance that comes with that traditional lifestyle and mindset too. And you kind of forego the equal pay, you know. And then finally, you got the age gappers, which is always kind of thrown off as either porn couples or dirty old man and young gold digger that really does, it combines the energy and fertility of a younger partner with the earning power and experience of an older partner. You have a breadwinner, you have your equal pay because the older man only makes more because he's older and more experienced. But again, it's top heavy and unbalanced in power, very unpopular with feminists. And again, it leads to the whole are you a gold digger, are you a creep kind of scenario. But the fact is, all the couples end up falling into one of these three categories because the math between them just doesn't work otherwise. I do encourage you to take two of these principles and stick to them to the best of your ability. But the true answer is still a little more complex. Like, don't forget, it's a world of choice. This is a world of freedoms. Just because your two principles are how you run your life doesn't mean you get to run everyone else's life by those principles. And it doesn't mean everyone else is wrong for making a different choice. They just kind of have to fit what works for them. And sometimes you should be open to the surprise possibility of a good relationship happening that doesn't fit the dynamic you're expecting. Because that can happen, and you can still find happiness outside of the box you expect yourself to land in. Finally, a couple closing thoughts that are tangential to the issue and more a commentary on society and politics and their involvement in the bedroom. And none of us want to see them there, but they're getting involved anyway. Having babies, because everyone's worried about there not being enough babies now, takes time and money and energy and space. You can't engineer a society and an economy that drains that out of everybody and still expects relationships and marriages and families to be forming. You know, you got to put some money where your mouth is. You want to see more families, you want to see more babies, pop pay raise, pop the pay. You know, get jobs paying people enough to have that and giving them enough time to have that. You can't just leverage maximum profit forever without consequences. And if you are of more of the religious, strict view that is really obsessed with the sanctity of marriage, don't mess around with abortion rights. Abortion rights isn't about marriage, it's about science. It is sometimes necessary for people's lives, it is sometimes unavoidable. What you want to mess with if you really care about marriage is the no fault divorce, because that's the thing that really keeps everything kind of falling apart every which direction. And the ones who pay for it, if you are parents, are always the kids. But I don't expect either political party to throw any water at the no fault divorce law, because then nobody there can trade in their models for a newer model anyway. And what do you know? It's just going to be another commitment they can't keep. Thank you for joining me for this brief discussion of dating principles. Let me know which two you align with, or if there's one that you think I've missed or isn't really discussed here. Thank you for joining me. Smell you later.